Howdy, everybody. I'm Michael Weiser, Political Director of Safer Arizona, and right now we're in this really critical time in the history of Arizona where a lot of people are debating the issue of grow rights. Meaning, would you be allowed to grow marijuana in your home if marijuana was, quote, legal? Well, Safer Arizona had been fighting for grow rights for a number of months, and then at the end of February, grow rights were cut out of the current ballot measure. We took a strong stance in favor of putting home grow back into the legislation and have been fighting day and night on that issue at extraordinary lengths. I'm looking forward to explaining those at some later detail, but here recently people were wondering what my opinion was. Having been a writer of some blah, 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 I went ahead and put out 50 different reasons for grow rights, and I know that most people won't read that. So rather than reading you all 50 reasons, besides they spill on the page, I'm going to skip a whole bunch of this stuff and just go straight to the fact that it's not us, silly. It's a national issue. Grow rights have emerged as a battlefield issue on the national movement of cannabis reform as state by state activists have had to deal with the policies being shoved down their throat by outside influences. Early adopter states set the precedent on home grow. Alaska, Oregon, Colorado, and Washington, D.C. all have home grow as part of their legalization. In fact, the only state that doesn't have home grow as part of their, quote, legalization is Washington. And they're fixing that because it's no good without it. Yeah, speaking of which, home grow is also important in keeping up with the national movement at this moment in time. This is just in, friends. Washington wished they had home grow so much they worked to correct that. The state legislature is now backing up because it's become so mainstream. And this is on the heels of backlash against other no home grow maneuvers in Ohio and Maine. Aligning this not just being part of our personal agenda, I would say that Safer Arizona will be woefully neglectful of the awesome responsibility that Arizona activists have to the nation if we backed up on home grow right now. But I know most people say that's not enough, so let me give you some more reasons. It doesn't reflect the values of Arizona. It's not in keeping with the regulatory structure of alcohol. If this is supposed to be regulated like alcohol, let's do that. It doesn't solve the black market, and let's be honest, with all the adults in the room, we don't really know how much marijuana there is in Arizona, and that is a problem. No, marijuana is not harmful, but the same cannot be said for the underground economies that cultivate and distribute it. I know. I grew up in the gangland South Texas on the international border, and cartels are truly scary. While most smokers know the story of some kindly little old lady who just grows a little to share with her friends, I assure you she isn't the one running those cartels. And those who make their living from marijuana criminal enterprises don't do background checks, don't take prisoners. This is not a presentation on why marijuana is bad, but it's a very passionate plea on why we have to realize that marijuana criminal enterprises are bad, and home grow is a way to get them at bay. With over 13 tons of legal marijuana sold in Arizona in 2014, a conservative estimate would say that well over 100 tons of marijuana was sold elsewhere. How much of that do you think got away? Oh yeah, in 2008, they're really proud that 4 million pounds of marijuana was seized by U.S. Customs. And how much do you think got away? Marijuana legalization has to address the black market. Providing a legal way for people to grow will co-opt whole swaths of the existing cultivator community and their clients. Not providing them with a legal outlet for their skills fails to comprehensively address the social impacts of prohibition or what life will look like after it. See, this perpetuates prohibition. If people can't grow their own marijuana, they're still prohibited and they're still criminals. The point's to end prohibition, not to modify it into a for-profit only industry. This perpetuates reefer madness. The conception that marijuana growing in somebody's backyard is an inherently dangerous situation is yet another propaganda product of the reefer madness generation. The idea that home invaders will be targeting your backyard is akin to suggesting that having beer in one's home should be prohibited because alcohol home invaders will be raiding your fridge. The basic components of reefer madness need to be discredited, not cottoned to. Please understand, those who worry about the supposed sensibilities of somebody's fictitious grandma, we care about that grandma's feelings too. Apparently a lot more than she cares about ours. But our society cannot be held hostage to the irrational fears of a minority of the population, even if they are voters, They're voters who never intended to vote for legalization, even if you showed them how cannabis cures cancer, and all the other wonders that they plug their ears daily trying not to hear. Those people are paranoia-driven, nervous Nellies who have turned this nation into the nanny state that we Arizonans say that we hate, right? We can't let those paranoias drive our society. People have always grown foods for their own needs. Limited budgets can't always afford to buy stuff in stores. Big point, optics are a choice. Main reason that we are given that home grow opponents oppose home grow is the supposition that it'll make it harder for the campaign to market marijuana reform to doubters. Supposedly there are various polls that range from great negative impact to negligible impact on the voters. Everybody agrees that home grow changes the dynamic, but many insist that it imperils the vote or unjustly raises the cost of the campaign to the investors. Now, while I sympathize for those who think that their money is on the line, I hasten to remind them that that money of theirs came from the larger cannabis community, and we're the ones calling for home grow. More importantly, look at this. Optics is four things. It's a lens. It's where you aim it. It's what the public is trying to look at, and it's what you want them to see. If we want to solve what is home grow, let's stop thinking of it as a problem and start thinking of it as an opportunity. Unlike the questions of Democrats or Republicans, people have not already been drenched in this rhetoric. Forget about the grandma who never, ever, ever was going to vote about this. But look at her daughters and her granddaughters and her great-granddaughters, who may be generations apart and may have different issues. So, for example, who has different issues? Who benefits from home grow? Here's a list. Who benefits from home grow? Rural populations, disabled people with limited mobility or transportation, disabled people with limited funds, gardeners, urban poor, aficionados who want to make their own stuff, gardening supply stores, home improvement industry, realtors. Law enforcement benefit from home grow because if it's decriminalized, if it becomes common like people would have it, then you're not going to have criminal element making all sorts of extra problems. That'll help with crime-ridden communities, small businesses, medical marijuana patients, the criminal justice system, the dispensary industry, their customers. And you know who suffers from home grow? The alcohol industry, but not much. Cartels, yeah. Shady dealers, and those crooked law enforcement. The overpriced legal operators, the lame legal operators, the small-time criminals and monopolists. What else? Fighting the fear factor. By now, everyone who could be converted to home grow surely is, or by now is close, and those who weren't interested have stopped watching. Scientists discovered for some people, if you try to prove something to them, the more you prove the points, the preponderance evidence causes them to back off even farther. They can't help it, it's instinct. They're afraid. And our opponents like to keep us afraid. In most cases, fear blocks intellectual thought. Fight or flight instincts, become run or die. It's because people are being governed by fear. Whether it's fear of some nameless boogeyman growing his demon weed, or fear that people won't vote for legalization because of that same guy, it's still fear. Until we stand up bravely on this issue, as folks have done on other issues, no matter how bravely our opponents stand up against us, we will remain governed by the fear they give to us. Marijuana reform, like the marijuana business, is a high-risk industry. Strength comes not from figuring out how to avoid risks, but from figuring out how to take them. The power of our oppression. For those ready to ghettoize cannabis reform as a momentary trend, to be trivialized over overpriced lattes, the battle for cannabis legalization may seem as insignificant as the choice between Coke or Pepsi. But let me encourage you to enjoy your distance. Pontificate from your safer move, and we'll get back to you when the shrapnel has settled. Those of us in the trenches know that this battle is every bit as bloody as any third world revolution. Our enemies use corrupt cops, corrupt courts, and when necessary, their military to oppress, imprison, and even kill us. I have no reason to exaggerate here. Those of you in the know, it's even worse than I'm making it look. Starting in the 1930s through exploited propaganda, corrupt politicians, corporate greed, and brute force, farmers across the land were robbed of their livelihood, even their lands, because of this prohibition on growing hemp and cannabis. Millions, literally millions of people have been jailed and had their lives ruined over this plan. To settle for less than the greatest possible freedom not only does not do honor to the sacrifice of the past, it does not do justice to those who fight for freedom now. Next, coalescing the community. Aside from casually attending some 420 things back in Illinois when I lived out there, I never really worked in any other states' marijuana reform, so I don't know what it's like anywhere else. But I do know that Arizona is famously contentious, has a famously contentious cannabis activist community. There's a pack of alphas jockeying for position and stage time all the time. Oh, it's great for reality TV, but it's not so great for creating a non-dismissible social movement. In fact, the only things that Arizona medical marijuana activists agree on is home grow is essential, and outside folks often screw us. MPP and home grow are the case in point currently. Now, while the pipe dream of some unified community is beyond the conjuring skills of any sativa I've yet run into, accomplishing home grow and exerting in-state control over the future of our state's marijuana policy are rallying points. MPP's PR didn't seem to care about us until we rallied to challenge their no-grow provision. Our voice has grown from being ignored to annoying in the ears of the supposed powers that be, and according to Gandhi, hey, we're half the way to winning. You want to tell me to stand down on home grow now for the good of the community? Hey, I wonder which community you're talking about. Honoring our mission, supporting our supporters. Because after just over 2 years on this process, and literally having met with thousands, honestly, thousands of citizens on this issue, spoken tens of thousands of words on the topic, and listened to hundreds of thousands of words on home grow, pro or no, I can promise you that Safe Arizona's legalization goals, home grow, citizens protections, small business opportunity are the synthesis of the activist public voice, with opinions weighing in from Somerton to Chinle, from Dolan Springs to Douglas, and other dozen marijuana places that you haven't heard of. Safe Arizona supporters and members have sacrificed much and risked everything in their call for legalization. They ask us to be faithful to the mission they asked us to act on. Now, when it comes to the dance partners at this particular rodeo, who would you choose to honor? The ones who brought you there, or the folks who keep bragging on your outfit? 49, this is the last one. Take a second. At this point in history, which is about 100 years, international oppression are ending before our very eyes right now, or it could be. Right now, Nicolae Ceausescu is being pulled off that balcony because of his smug smile. The public's finally rising up. Or is he? Are we? You know, back in the 1860s, many of those who risked the fight over slavery were never slaves. But they knew the fight was important. I mean, is America a land of freedom, self-reliant, rugged individualists, or are we simply commodities to be bought and sold? Generations of Americans will live with the choices we make today on the battleground of this issue. I was recently asked if home grow is more important than post-conviction relief, which is another cause we've fought on for a year or now. Which one's more important? And I hesitatingly had to say home grow. If I have to choose one. I mean, post-conviction relief salvages shattered lives from mistakes of the past, but protecting home grow improves uncountable lives in the future. Who knows how many lives could be ruined tomorrow if we're afraid to act today. So, once again, this is Michael Weiser, Political Director of Safe Arizona, thanking you for your time and hoping that you will help us in this fight. Make marijuana legal.